Once upon a time, in 2011, teenagers all over the world were going to parties, making new friends and having lots of sex. The rest of us were playing Skyrim. This famous Bethesda release is one of the most recognised games ever, and for good reason. But specifically, why is Skyrim so good, and does it stand up in 2020? This is The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim. Should I buy it? The story. The story of Skyrim is vast, with many different arcs and paths. The main crux of the story follows the life of the last Dragonborn. The whole Dragonborn background is long and complex, and naturally, if you play the game, you will learn more about it through text around the world. For now, the simplest way to view it is as a dragon hunter. The two biggest storylines are that of the ongoing civil war and the sudden return of dragons to the world. The plot contains lots of twists and turns, and the ability to somewhat affect the outcome by choices that you make in the game. The main story is brilliant, but the real brilliance of this game comes from the abundance of side quests, with some spanning for over several hours. Each quest and piece of narrative is carefully crafted together, and you can really feel the passion that the developers have thrown into it. A game this size has to have a good story, and it really does. 9. Setting. The game is set in Skyrim and is approximately 200 years after the events of the game's prequel, The Elder Scrolls Oblivion. You don't need to play this game before playing Skyrim, but it is very good. There are 9 major cities, and each is stunningly crafted and has its own little quirks and populace. Each city houses intriguing individuals, secrets and quest lines, and you'll likely have your favourite city after just a few hours of playing. The good news is, if you really like a city, you can even buy a house there and start your very own family, just like in The Sims. Sadly though, the Rosebud or Motherlode cheats do not work in this game. However, it is much easier to kill your spouse. My only gripe with this beautiful world is the wilderness areas outside of the city walls. Fast travel is locked until you first visit the location, which makes for a lot of walking or riding. Sure, along the way you'll stumble across bandit caves and tombs and giants walking their pet mammoths. However, for me, it just needed something else. Perhaps a few random encounters, just like something we would see in Red Dead Redemption or GTA. These small events do occasionally occur, but for me, far too rarely. In my opinion, a perfect open world setting should make you want to walk to the next location instead of fast travelling. That said, overall, I would happily pack a suitcase and move to Skyrim if it weren't for the dragons and stuff. 8. Characters. By now you'll gather that Skyrim is fucking massive, and thus it's difficult to give a proper review of all of the characters because there are simply so many. The protagonist, of course, is us, the Dragonborn. What is nice about Skyrim is you've pretty much got complete control over the character's creation. You can choose your race, your appearance, your name, although it's never verbally mentioned in the game, and also the type of character you want to be combat-wise later on. The only thing missing within this is the inclusion of a backstory. All we know about ourselves pre-game is that we were captured whilst trying to cross the border into Skyrim. It would have been nice if Skyrim provided us with a backstory based on our race, similar to how Dragon Age Inquisition operates, or even allowing you to choose your own backstory like the upcoming Cyberpunk 2077 will do. The game doesn't have any voice acting for our character. We merely choose the text response but never hear it. This was pretty much the norm for RPG games back in 2011, so I can't criticise it too much. However, I'm sure The Elder Scrolls VI, which is currently in production, will without a doubt feature a voice-led main character. Due to this mechanic, it's very hard to build a personality around your character. A lot of it requires your own imagination, which, if you're an RPG gamer, shouldn't be too difficult. The supporting characters are just brilliant. There are so many incredible individuals around the world who will have you scared, falling in love, or rolling around on the floor laughing. There's also Nazim, who is a The companion system, like most adventure RPGs, allows you to build your team of friends and allies, each of them possessing a different fighting style to help you with each quest. The game does also feature romance, even marriage, and the ability to adopt children. Overall, brilliant. But the lack of connection I actually had with my own character, the Dragonborn, held it back. 7.5. Gameplay. Making, and also probably for you watching this review in 2020, the gameplay isn't going to seem anything special. But this game was released in 2011 and in my humble opinion formed the basis and style for all of those wonderful RPGs that have followed since. The game gives you the option to play in first or third person, and that's entirely down to the gamer. I personally use the first person camera, occasionally switching to third when in conversations. Again, it's a personal choice, but it's nice that we have the choice. Killing animations add a lot to the game, particularly if your character is a bit of a stealthy build. I love picking off unsuspecting enemies with arrows from a distance. That said, a warrior build can be just as fun with brutal head choppings and finishes. A lot of the gameplay elements in this game can be enhanced by mods, of which the game is pretty famous for, but I'm reviewing the base game only. For me, the inventory and menu could have been greatly improved. It can sometimes be cluttered and difficult to find what you're looking for, hence why modders introduced their very own way. Fighting is good and provides a real challenge. With a huge variety of enemies, you really find yourself having to use different weapons or techniques in every single encounter. Waypoints are distinctly missing from the game. Yes, you can set an objective marker, but illuminated route to that objective could have really helped. Some of the quest points are at the top of a mountain, and without a guide to get there, you find yourself awkwardly trying to scale a mountain whilst on your horse. Which brings me swiftly on to the weakest element of Skyrim's gameplay: horse riding. Now, don't set your point of comparison at Red Dead Redemption 2 because that was released 7 years senior and is significantly better. However, Red Dead Redemption 1, released 1 year before Skyrim, shows just how wrong Bethesda got their horse riding. It feels clunky and unrefined and is also rather slow. You can't gallop across the map and the speed is only slightly quicker than walking. Because of this, I spent most of my time in the game neglecting my poor horse and going for a jog instead. I have also put hundreds and hundreds of hours into this game and have never ever seen any NPC riding a horse. Coincidence? That said, lockpicking and pickpocketing were super addictive and were defining for the genre. You get a real sense of satisfaction by successfully breaking into somebody's home and stealing their valuables whilst remaining undetected. However, it can be unrealistic at times. For example, you can steal people's shields and huge great swords and even clothing off an NPC and they don't even seem to notice. But fuck it. This is Skyrim. Conversations, although desperately lacking a Dragonborn voice as mentioned before, still added a lot to the game. An area for improvement could be to include some flirting or romance dialogue options, like we see in BioWare games such as Mass Effect and Dragon Age. Finally, the in-depth and detailed character progression system is a thing of beauty. So despite the horrendous horseplay, this gameplay keeps me coming back time and time again. 8.5. Visuals. For the time, the visuals were pretty good. The buildings within the cities are well crafted and most showcase different and unique interiors. Taverns are full of light from the warm fires in the centre of the room, and it all makes for pretty good viewing. Exploring the deep dark dungeons and tombs is fun and eerie enough to keep you on the edge of your seats. A flaw here is that I wish some were physically darker. Torches do exist in the game, but I don't remember a time where I had to use one. Some areas, such as the Eldergleam Sanctuary seen here, is stunning and really does make you stand back and admire it. Graphically, it's average. Sure, you'll see clips on YouTube which look pretty spectacular and think, wait, Ghostafana told me the graphics are average, he must be lying. Most Skyrim YouTubers will be using mods, and there is an abundance of graphically enhancing ones. The weather system is fairly undynamic and the water texture in the game needs a lot of work. Also, the flora and fauna in the world needs to be brought to life a bit. As for characters' faces, they're again just okay. Sometimes mouth animations don't seem to quite suit the character's dialogue, and their emotions can sometimes feel a little bit flat. 6.5. Bugs. Skyrim is one of those games which can be hella buggy, but I rarely came across any broken quest lines, and any that were often patched very quickly by Bethesda. Very, very occasionally I'd have to reboot a save from 10 minutes previously to fix something. Bodies sometimes don't disappear in major cities, even months in game after you kill them, and the biggest one is preventing you from interacting with something because there is an enemy nearby or we're in combat when we're simply not. Overall, there's bugs, but I think some can be partly expected for the time and the size of the game. 6. Length. Haha, okay, if you're about to dive into this game for the very first time, book some time off work and tell your partner and your children that you love them, because daddy or mummy is going away for a while. Incredibly, the main story only clocks in at 30 hours, but the main story actually forms a very small part of this colossal game. If you're playing Skyrim the right way, and by that I mean completing every single quest and talking to every single person in every single tavern in every single city, it's going to take you closer to the 300-hour mark. So yeah, long. But does it justify that length? Yes, I think it does. The main story will keep you engaged until the end, and sure, you'll come to a point where you maybe give up on your remaining side quests and try another game, but it's a game which is rarely completed to 100%, but it can still be done. 9. Fun. Is Skyrim fun? Well, by now you should probably know. Incredibly crafted storytelling combined with a wholly immersive world makes this game a joy. 9. Replayability. Would you play this game again? Absolutely. But allow some time between each play. Because it's so huge, you'll probably only play this game once every few years to main story completion. There are choices which can alter the way the game ends, but it's not too narrative changing, let's say compared to The Witcher 3. The biggest appeal of replaying is creating a brand new character build with a different race and combat style. 8. Value. So to buy this game now on Xbox One or PS4, you have to buy the Special Edition, which is the base game but complete with the 3 DLCs, which are very, very good. Even now, years after release, it's up at £15/$20 on both consoles. Is that good value? It may be fairly pricey for an older game, but it's an older game which shaped and moulded the entire RPG industry. Hell, even the whole video game industry. If you haven't played the game before, I think that's still good value. However, if you have played this game before back on 360 or PS3 and you want to play it again for nostalgia, I'd maybe ask around to see if any of your friends can lend it to you first. Could be a little bit cheaper. 7. So, there you have it. And people often ask me, what is better, Skyrim or The Witcher 3? If you follow my channel, you'll know I'm a big fan of The Witcher, and there's no doubt that The Witcher 3 is one of the most standout games ever. But there's so much that that game could only do because of the things that Skyrim did years before. It ultimately comes down to you as a gamer. I'd say that Skyrim is driven by freedom and the ability to go and explore wherever you want, whenever you want, whereas The Witcher is driven by choices and the ability to mould the narrative by the decisions that you personally make. For me and my gaming style, I prefer the latter. But if you haven't played Skyrim yet, give it a go. For more reviews and other gaming videos, please hit subscribe.